Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lab. This is episode 39 with Kel and Cody. Today, we're going to be talking about our recent trip to Las Vegas to see the Olympia. But before that, how are you doing today, Cody?
Pretty good. I feel like I'm still recovering from the trip to Vegas. Like, it was a short trip. It was, I don't know, it was just very, fast and lots of people, lots of walking, lots of just everything. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Also, still recovering with the quick trip. It was like a 3-hour time difference for us, too. And I took a red eye back, so my sleep schedule has been all kind of fuckered. But recovering, we're getting there. It's catching up. I feel like this week is flying by, so that's been fun. It's already Wednesday, which is crazy.
I know. I can't believe it. I feel like we were in Vegas yesterday, and now it's almost Christmas. What the fuck? How did that happen? Are you done with all your Christmas shopping and stuff?
I am actually not. I had very few people to buy for this year, and I'm still not done. So I'm going out tomorrow to finish it up.
Nice.
But I only have one more thing to buy, so that is pretty good.
Not too bad.
Are you done?
Pretty much. I have a few things I need to go out and get to, and we're past that Amazon delivery point, so gotta go out in public and society and fight the crowds of the same people that procrastinated like I did. But almost, it's not too bad, so it shouldn't be awful. But what are you guys doing for Christmas?
Well, we're gonna go up to Cleveland for Christmas Eve with Maddie's family, and then we're doing my family on Christmas Day afternoon. But so everything is within Cleveland's 2.5 hours from where I am. My family is here in town, so it should be easy. But yeah, and then I have to work on Christmas Eve also in the morning, so it's gonna be busy, but not too extensive. How about yourself?
Okay. Yeah, just going to my parents' house. So it'll be Des and me, her kids, and her dad and brother, and then my parents. So yeah, nothing
Nice.
Crazy. So be pretty chill.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like I was gonna. Oh yeah, we also should probably mention about the lab.
Oh yeah,
launch, that sort of thing. If you haven't watched or listened to any recent episodes, we are launching a fitness community. It's subscription based, and it's basically group coaching. So you get a lovely community to share your progress with, keep you accountable. We'll be in there doing live Q&As. We'll also have lots of resources, workouts, monthly challenges, all the fun things to kind of keep you accountable in the new year. And so we are getting ready to launch, and I don't want to give you a specific date, but we are aiming to launch January. So at the beginning of 2023. So make sure you sign up for the newsletter on our website, yourfitlab.com. Is that correct? Yes, yourfitlab.com. I'm always paranoid. I'm saying it backwards. So yeah, yourfitlab.com. Our website is live for you to take a little browse through. It has minimal information on it so far, but sign up for the newsletter email list, and then you will be the first to know when we have set an official launch date. And yeah, just super excited about that. Is there anything I missed, Kel, that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that's really good, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and so sign up.
Yes, and keep in mind, yes, there will be a January challenge, so when we do launch, you will also be automatically entered into that January challenge, of course, if you want to participate. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to. We're not forcing anyone, but you automatically get entered into that challenge. It's not an extra fee or anything. All the challenges within the lab are included with the lab pricing
Membership
option. Yeah. So, yeah, sign up, people.
Sign up. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yes. Anyways, all right.
Cool.
Back to scheduled programming. So yeah, should we just go
Let's
into
do it.
our Vegas? All right, where should we
Our
start?
Vegas experience. So,
Yes.
well, okay. Let's start with what the Olympia is. So, the Olympia is like the biggest show in bodybuilding. So, what I always like to say to lay people who aren't into the bodybuilding sport is it is like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. So it's all the best of the best. You have to qualify to get in. Like you can't just like sign up for it. So these are professionals who have won a major show, and have been invited to participate in it. And then it's women and men, a couple different levels, and then there's also an amateur show, but that happens earlier in the week, so we didn't see any of that. And then it also has Expo. Kind of like if you've been to the Arnold or know what the Arnold Classic is, it's very similar to that, but on a larger scale.
Yes, it was. The expo was very crazy.
The Expo was the whole thing was crazy. It was like so crowded, and
It was.
it was my first time to Vegas in a very long time. I forget, was it your first time?
It was my first time, yeah. So never been to Vegas, so it was a lot.
It's a lot. It was a lot. It was very overstimulating.
It was. It really was. Yeah. So let's see. So yeah, Super Bowl of bodybuilding, essentially. So it's just, it's the bodybuilding show. You know, it's what any bodybuilder aspires to compete at. I'm a little too old to ever get on that stage. But you
There's
know,
the
maybe as a
Masters.
coach. Oh, that's true. That's true. You know, maybe one. Just kidding. But maybe as a coach one day, you know, Kel, I'll coach you up on there.
Yeah, right. I'm the same age as you.
You're a little younger. Like
2 months.
a few months.
A few months.
But yeah, so you know, I was inspired as an athlete and as a coach. I feel like so it kind of goes both ways. How I'd love to coach someone to the Olympia. I feel like I would feel pretty stoked about that. But then I would also, you know, I would love to compete on the Olympia stage. Who wouldn't, really?
Yeah.
So very very crazy, but also very inspiring.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I was really surprised with how emotional. Like, so for people who don't aren't aware, so like how bodybuilding shows work, especially at the pro level, is that there's prejudging. So that's when all the athletes come on stage the first time and they do a lot of comparisons. And then there's the finals, and we went to the finals night. We didn't see prejudging, but the finals is when they do all their individual poses or individual posing routines, and then they crown the winners. It was so emotional. I thought the acceptance speeches were crazy. There was a huge upset. It was just nuts, and Maddie cried. During
Did
Christmas
she expect
speech.
to be crying at a bodybuilding show?
I don't think so. So it was a lot of fun. Very
Like
inspirational.
I almost cried during his speech too. I was just like, oh my god, what? He always like has a speech that I just save somewhere on my phone every year or like repost or whatever, because it's like always, I don't know, it's always gives you almost this theme for the year. I remember last year I was like, you know, champion mentality, and I was just like listening to that when I needed to, and this one, I think the thing that stuck out to me the most when, I wish we could play it, but when he, you know, was talking about his friend who had cancer, which is funny. I had watched his YouTube and the podcast episode they did with his kid. I didn't know he had passed away. So when he had said that, I was like, oh, that's so fucking sad. But he said, like, you don't have to be dying to start living. And it's just like, it kind of just puts it in perspective to you, because you're just like, all of these little things we always tend to worry about or stress about. And, you know, this, you know, 19-year-old kid was dying of cancer, and he still was just like, you know, living his best life positively as much as he could up until the day he passed. And so you're just like, man, what am I complaining about?
Yeah, for real. And like, well, and then Hadi's speech. So Hadi, is from Iran, and he dedicated his speech to the women of Iran, and it was like just a huge upset. He's been fighting forever to be where he is, and he's still thinking of others. And I think people have this very different expectation of bodybuilders, that it's very vain, that it's very about them, about being big and macho, and these men are out there. Like, both of them, I think, fell to the ground when they were crowned, and like Chris teared up,
crying.
And it's a lot more to the sport than I think meets the eye, and people who participate in the sport are a lot deeper than I think people understand on first sight, for sure.
Well, I think, honestly, most people who are into bodybuilding are a little fucked up in the head. So, like, I feel like it's almost like comedians, right? They're some of the most, like, deep, fucking fucked up people that you come across, because you, like, hear them talk on podcasts, or I love reading comedians' autobiographies. They crack me up, but they're also, like, super, like, I always take something away from them, because they have this, like, life experience, and they're very deep, and so it just makes me think a lot, and I learn from them. I feel like that's the same with bodybuilding, because it's like they have a chip on your shoulder. You're not a bodybuilder if you don't have a chip on your shoulder. It just doesn't exist. I'm sorry, but
yes.
So it's like these people are actually very emotional and deep, and they feel. They have feelings, people, like, so to see them kind of, like, to see big ass, almost like 300-pound men cry on stage, and when people
naked.
think of bodybuilders, they think of this, like, naked, they think of this, like, toxic masculinity thing, and it's just like, I don't know, I think it sends a message when you have the most muscular guy on the fucking planet, accepting an award, making, like, a really heartfelt speech, and then crying at the same time while also being in a Speedo. So it's all sorts of interesting, and just fucks with all sorts of society standards.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun. The other thing I kind of loved about the weekend, and I guess these are kind of like the big takeaways for me, was nobody was an asshole. Like, at least I didn't experience any assholes really at the O. Like, everybody was very supportive. Everybody was there for, like, fanning out, and, like, was, like, in really good spirits, I thought, on show day and in the expo and all that jazz. Like, there was not really any negativity that I saw or experienced, which is pretty cool. It's a very big uniter, I think, in the world of bodybuilding and fitness in general.
No, I think it's because, like, fitness brings people together from all walks of life. Doesn't matter, like, your political standing or anything like that. It's just like when you go into the expo and you think of all those people that were in there, like, so many people, and all these people, if you would have put them in a message board on the internet and expressed opinions, it probably would have been, like, all out full-on war. But when you get people together in person in the same building, it's like everyone's nice to each other, and we all don't, like, point out our differences. We just, move around, and we interact with each other in a respectful way that apparently doesn't exist on the internet. So it's kind of like this. It's great when you can, like, be brought together by something, like, just by common ground, and then just leaving it there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and then, like, everybody was cheering everybody else on. I don't know, it was just a very wholesome environment, kind of. Like, and it's hilarious to talk about that in bodybuilding in the city of sin.
Yes, it was the most wholesome show that you could go to in Vegas.
In Vegas.
But yeah, so something that's really funny, on the way back, we had this lady that sat next to me and Des, and she out of nowhere was like, is there some sort of, like, convention going on? I've never seen such big men in my life. And we were like, yes, it's a bodybuilding show. So she was so cute because she was so interested in it. So we were showing her pictures on Instagram of like the Olympia and how we went, and like photos of the competitors, and she was like, oh my gosh, and like she was just like so into it. It was very cute. Like she was a talker, and you know how you always want to like, you're like, oh my god, this is awful. And like we were so socialized out, but she was very nice. She's a psychologist apparently, so she just knew how to not be annoying. But it was funny. She was like, I knew there was something going on. I was telling my husband there's so many massive men.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I do always wonder if like how if you can like if you're like a worker, like if someone who works on the strip, like do you know when there's different conventions in, does like the whole vibe of the city change, I wonder? And like
probably
because I imagine they get like the biggest conferences just because like the city's kind of like built for that. And so I always just want to ask like a waitress or a server or someone, like, does the whole vibe change every other weekend?
That's like, I'm sure it does a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
There's probably enough tourists and like people there for just vacation to like keep it a pretty steady space. But I imagine when some like big conventions come to town, it has to change at least a little bit.
Yeah, I would imagine so, especially if there's like a difference between like bodybuilding competition and like a I don't know, like a anime convention or something. You know, I'm sure there's a little bit of a different vibe there.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But, yeah, I bet you the city was like, damn, like we're running out of chicken this weekend. I don't know what's happening. Right. No more rice and chicken, man.
There's no more chicken in the whole building. But yeah.
So should we talk about like the divisions and, you know, kind of like the standings, how everything played out and what we thought would happen and what did happen, that sort of thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So where should we start?
So I think we can start. So there's men and women's bodybuilding, and then like so there's a bunch of different categories in the women's section, and then there's a bunch of different ones in the men's. The ones that we saw were the big boys. So the open bodybuilders. So that's like the famous ones that are massive. We saw Classic Physique, which is like Chris Bumstead, who is like the most popular active bodybuilder probably right now. We saw Men's Physique, which is the category that Cody competes in, with the board shorts. And then we saw
bum knee division.
They're just as impressive, Cody. Don't knock it. And then we also saw the smallest women. The smallest women who compete.
Bikini.
The bikini women.
I still find it odd that they put bikini alongside with open bodybuilding.
I don't really understand what they were going for. I guess probably bikini is probably the most popular division, I would say, of the women's bodybuilding. Do you think?
Maybe they needed to like put in some like sex appeal. I don't really know, but I mean, they're so lean. I don't even think that's like a thing. Like, no offense, like no one is really sexy on that stage. Like the open men's bodybuilding, no one's like that's hot. You know, like there's just no one's attracted.
They're freaks. That's why.
Yes.
That's why people like to watch it. It's how much mass can you put on one human body? Period. Yeah. But I did notice. So, bikini came on first, which was different. But then they kind of like disappeared for a while. For a long time, it was a very strange.
Yeah, like we didn't find out who won bikini until like right before we knew who won the whole, you know, Mr. Olympia. And so I decided I was going to go to the bathroom when bikini, like when they were going to announce the bikini people, because I was like, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to pee so I don't, you know, miss Mr. Olympia open division announcement. And then there was a line to the men's bathroom because all the men decided to do the same thing. And I'm like, all these men are just here for the naked men. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I didn't go to the bathroom. I just held it because I was like, well, that's not happening. But that's why I was wondering, like, why they put bikini in with the ones they did. I would assume they should do it like a Friday and then maybe put 212 on the finals night. But,
My guess is that they were trying to fight like appearances, like they didn't want it to make it look like they were leaving out all the women. That's my guess.
Yeah,
But,
or maybe if they put like women's bodybuilding with the open men's bodybuilding, I was just like, bikini, really? But yeah, so for women's divisions, they have bikini, they have fitness, they have physique, and then they have bodybuilding.
And wellness now. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
new
I
one.
almost forgot wellness. Wellness is essentially physique with a big ass. So they were all Brazilian. There was not one that was not. So it's like the Brazilian division.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's physique with ass. That's how I would describe it.
Bikini with ass. Do they have good
They're
shoulders?
a little more muscular than bikini. They're like I would say the lower body is more muscular. The upper body might be a little bit more equivalent to bikini. So it's lower body bodybuilding. It's like the opposite of men's physique. So women get the lower body bodybuilding, men get the upper body bodybuilding.
The only thing I was thinking of during the whole bikini women's lineup was, how do they not have lower back issues with how they make them walk
Right.
and stand?
With the
And they're in high
heels
heels.
I guess because they don't walk like that constantly. But if they did, they would definitely have lower back issues. But yeah, it's funny too because you could tell who is competing if you're walking around Vegas because they all have like sunken in faces, and you're like, oh, they're competing for sure.
Well, that's what the Chris
Bumstead.
Bumstead memes are hilarious, because he looked insane if he wasn't
Yeah.
on stage. Because he's
Yes,
so
that's true.
his face with his eyes so wide, and his cheekbones so sunken in. Plus, he was wearing a
Yes.
Carhartt everywhere, so he looked like a meth head. It was
There was a lot of
strange.
yeah. It looked like there was like a meth head convention, but it was really just bodybuilding.
Really tan meth heads.
Yeah. Oh man. But so yeah, I did watch the 212. I paid my whole $70 to stream it the night before because I really wanted to know. I wanted to see Sean Clarita compete. If anyone knows, okay, so Sean Clarita is inspiration for us short kings because he is, I think, maybe 5'1". He is shorter than us, but he competes in the 212 division, which means you have to be under or at 212 pounds. You can't be over 212 pounds. So he kind of he has all the room to grow. He's never in danger of not hitting weight. I think he's usually pretty far off. I think he said he still competed like around 180 or something.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And I know the year he won, he was like 175. So he's just like, he's got so much room to grow. Obviously, he has a limit on his frame. But he always brings like the fucking best conditioning. And even though he's only 5'1", and there's people competing that are way taller than him, he won for the second time. He lost last year to Derek Lunsford, but Derek moved up to open, so he was able to like get that title back, and it was well deserved. So it was really good to see him win and get that back because it gives us all short guys just some inspiration that we don't feel like, it's impossible to be good at bodybuilding because we're short and stuff like that. And then
You can put on as much size as you want.
Yes, and yeah, you're your own limit. Yeah. So it was good to see him win, and then I watched open bodybuilding prejudging that night as well via the stream. So I got to like kind of get an eye for who the judges might be looking at, and Hottie was front and center the majority of the time, and Rami, the guy who won previously the last couple of years, was always like all the way on the left. and I think people like still thought he was going to win. But he, as I don't know, this is really us describing this to people is probably like kind of boring because they're like, we don't care. But so Rami is just, he's massive. He's like a tank. He's tall and just big. But I think that might have kind of played against him this time.
Yeah. So when you're looking at bodybuilding, there's like most people just who aren't like super fans of the sport just see a mass of human, and there's a lot of like differences between like bodybuilders, especially for the big guys. Is like some are just like put on as much size and look like a refrigerator, and then there are some who like have some nice shape and like. Because, like, if you think back in the day, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had a lot of shape to him. Like, he looked like a Greek god as opposed to just a hunk of steer or something. Like
Meat.
a hunk of meat. So, like, there are some bodybuilders who still, like, are very concerned with shape and making themselves look like human and not just like a brick house. But to me, it's like almost half and half right now about like with the who's out there right now. Half are like just put on size, don't care about shape, and then there's like some that are like very concerned with shape. So it's interesting to see how it's kind of changing because Rami's very much one of those people who is just like just size. That's it.
Yeah, and so like when they're looking in bodybuilding, there's they're looking for conditioning, size, symmetry, that sort of thing. And so just to name off a few, like so I think so Nick Walker, for example, he's kind of the fridge example. He's so blocky and very square, and so he's kind of just like a different taste, different type. Then we have people like Derek who came in, who has shape, and I'm excited to see how he does next year. So Derek I found to be very impressive because he just moved up from 212, which he won last year, and then he came into the Open and got second place. Like, that's pretty fucking impressive.
It's huge.
But not only that, he had size, but he still had a waist. Like, he still has a pretty, a pretty physique. Like his abdomen isn't all blown out. He didn't look like he was trying real hard to just keep it, sucked in. It just looked really natural. He just has that really nice kind of like X frame. And so to see him get second place was really cool, especially over Rami, who doesn't have much shape. And I do like Nick, but for the reason of being like, he's just a really hard worker, and he doesn't let anyone tell him what he can do, because I think he's been told numerous times he'll never be good at this sport. And I think I find him inspiring in that way because he just never listens, and he just keeps going over what he wants. And here he is. He got third place in the Olympia, and he might not have the best shape, but he's kind of shown that you can still work with what you have. And I think that's why I find him inspiring, because as a trans guy, I'm often pretty self-conscious about my shape. And, I have a little bit, the wider hips, because unfortunately I was, born with a couple chromosomes that are X's. So it's like, sometimes it gives me a little inspiration or hope to know that just because you don't have an ideal shape doesn't mean that you can't still shape it into your best form, or into a form that, can still be competitive. So that's where I find him to be inspiring. And also just his I felt like his attitude this year was different. I know he had a lot of mental struggles, and he broke up with his coach, and then they got back together, and it was very cute.
There was so much drama.
He
with
wrote
him.
this thing after. There's a lot of drama, but you could just tell that he was not happy. Like, him and Matt were just two peas in a pod, you know, like they did everything together. They lived next to each other. It was just kind of a sad little thing in the body. Like I was sad about it. It was stupid, but so they got back together like right before, like 12 weeks before the Olympia. They started working together. So just to see them kind of like repair their relationship, and I feel like he kind of matured because he was happy with third place, and he said some like really nice things, and he was like, due to all the mental issues that I've been experiencing this year, I'm really happy that I was able to still get third place. That's 2 spots above where I was last year. And I know last year he was like, he felt that he failed because he got 5th, and it was like his first Olympia. So it just shows some like, yeah, some like, you know, it just shows, I think, some mental maturity on his end. And he is young. So I think it was kind of cool to see him grow up a little bit, even though, you know, he's very stereotypical bodybuilder. But
He is.
and also to see Hottie win, because he's been getting third place, I feel like, forever. And he always brings like consistent conditioning.
Also, when we talking, sorry to interrupt you. When we're talking about conditioning, essentially what that means is like the ability to get fat off of you. So like the lowest body fat, and like, so
shredded.
That's what conditioning means, just for anybody who doesn't know. All right, continue.
Yes, sorry. So like Hottie always comes in like the most conditioned, and like I think, you know, it finally paid off. The judges finally saw him, and they gave him the title, and I felt happy just to be there in that moment. I know I was inspired by it, because it just, the guys, bodybuilding is a sport of discipline, perseverance, determination. When I'm there looking at these guys, I'm not thinking about like the muscle or like, you know, the surface level stuff. Like literally the people walking on that stage busted their asses, and they've been so fucking disciplined, and that is what I find so admirable. So to see Hottie, who's just been persevering, I feel like when other people would have given up, he didn't, and then he did get the title. I think there was people who would be like, I don't think he's ever gonna win, he just keeps coming back. But he won, and so yeah, I don't know, I thought that was a really good moment.
Yeah, I liked that moment a lot too, and I think another thing that I really liked about Hottie's story was he's not from here. He has hearing issues. He doesn't speak the English. He had a lot to overcome, but another thing that I really liked about Hottie's speech was it opened another door and facet of bodybuilding, and that's just that it's not really a group activity, but it takes a strong ass support system to succeed in it. And when he was doing his speech, he had his coach and his interpreter come on, and he was just speaking in his speech, and the interpreter just like was interpreting, and then just stopped and said, I'm sorry, right now it's just, I'm really emotional because yes, I'm Hottie's interpreter, but I'm also his friend, and I'm just really fucking happy. Well, he didn't say fucking. And I just thought it was really sweet, just because not only is a bodybuilder sacrificing all their dedication and time and effort and all that stuff, they're also asking other people that they love to help them in understanding this dream that not a lot of people can get on board with. So recognizing that and showing that in such a wide stage, because I know Chris Bumstead also talked about kind of it taking a tribe and a village to be successful at. So I thought that was very cool as well.
Yeah, and that's definitely, you know, something that people don't understand, or when people want to get into bodybuilding, you do have to make sure that the people that are in your life are going to be supportive of it. Otherwise, it's not going to work, unfortunately, because it's a selfish sport, you know, like you are very focused on yourself, because that's just how it has to be in order for you to succeed. That's not to say you can't like give anything back in, you know, ways in a relationship and stuff like that. But especially during prep season, it's very like, it's a moment where a partner, you know, a lot of relationships end during preps. So it's not easy. So anyone who is dating or married to a bodybuilder, well, thank you for. I'm like, thanks, Des.
Right.
Yeah, it does take a village because, you know, you need your coach. The people that are there with you, like professionally, you know, people have posing coaches. They have, you know, their diet and exercise coach, whatever. Then they have their family members or their significant other or whoever, like people that tan them. Or it does take a village to be successful at that level, or really any level of bodybuilding.
Yeah. Who were the other people that you were really excited to see this weekend, and or did people surprise you? Anything like that?
Let's see. I think I was really disappointed that I didn't get to see Terrence do his posing routine. That I did not anticipate at all. I was like, I'm so excited I get to see this in person. I was all like, you know, amped up to see him pose, and he didn't make the top 5, so he didn't get to do his routine. He did post it to Instagram though. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to look.
Okay, so he posted his posing routine to Instagram. He did it in front of a bunch of people at the gym, which was, I don't know, you know, still quite heartwarming because they were all like watching him and cheering for him afterwards, even though he didn't get to do it on stage. But it also just shows you, like, there was just a lot of really great sportsmanship this time around. There wasn't any like drama or like, I mean, in the beginning there was because they like to create entertainment, but
Yes.
At the end everyone was just very respectful, and so it was just good to see. But I was hoping to see him pose, and my dogs are just gonna go crazy, I guess. Hey. Sorry.
You're fine.
But I don't know. How about you?
I was bummed I didn't get to see Terrence, but I saw him at the Arnold, and so I've seen him.
Lucky.
Not to say that I didn't want to see him again, but I was really happy with that. This was the year we went, just because I feel like this was a big turning point. Just because I do think they were trying to teach. The judges were trying to show that they were going a different route, maybe, or maybe trying to teach a lesson to certain bodybuilders, which was really cool. I was really excited. I saw to see Andrew Jacked. I thought was a really good showman. His
splits,
posing,
right?
Yeah, his posing routine was pretty dope. He had a lot of character in it. So that was really fun. I really liked him. I really liked Samson. I think
Me too.
this Olympia really kind of highlighted like the next generation of competitors. Maybe a couple of the old or veteran competitors fell a lot, or didn't peak correctly, whatever it was, and like a new class kind of took control or took over a little bit further. For the classic guys, I was really excited to see Chris. Obviously, he did great. I don't think anybody was really going to touch him, but it was fun to see Ramon still so excited to get second. So I was really excited to see that.
Yeah, I was. So Ramon, he has a beautiful physique. But I did notice when he stood next to Chris, his back is so small. I was like, his back needs a lot of work.
I think everybody looks super small against Chris, though, to be completely honest.
That's true.
He's a massive man.
I came across a post, actually, about someone was doing a height comparison of Chris Bumstead and then someone else that was in the open. I forget his name, but they're around the same height. And, like, they weigh almost about the same, and the other guy was in the open, and people were saying that taller people have an advantage in classic physique because due to like the amount of pounds that once you get over 6 foot, you get like a little more weight allowance or something along those lines, because it's usually like 5 pounds per inch, but then once you hit 6 foot, it's a little more. I could be totally fucking wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's something like that. So people were a little bit like, oh, taller people have an advantage. They should, do something to fix that because Chris looks like an open bodybuilder and he could very easily compete in open and probably get top 5. And I'm like, it's not wrong. Probably he's massive, he's big. He's so, no one can really. I think that's also why like Breon and Terrence, they were, the shorter guys, and they were on the the outskirts of the taller guys. So, I do think there is a height advantage for sure with classic, just because also the taller you are, the more like lean and like you have better shape at a bigger size as well when you are taller, and that's kind of the classic look. So I do feel like when you are shorter, it's hard to win versus 212. It doesn't really matter. You are looking to be as big as you can get to, as long as you're under 212. So it's like Sean, he's basically his own 212. Like he's as big as he can get, but he's still got shape and stuff like that. But it's okay that he doesn't look like very pretty and long and lean. He just looks big and like fucking sturdy,
like a pit bull almost, sense, like like a boxy pit bull, like I agree, and I've noticed, like I saw especially on Instagram, like a lot of people are moving up to open from classic, and like, to be honest, it's not a bad idea career wise if you're a professional bodybuilder, because like Chris said, he wasn't planning on retiring anytime soon. He's just going to keep going, and there's no reason for him to move up because he's doing so well. So like if you're really, and the O doesn't really have, like the open bodybuilders don't really have a runaway king of them, to be honest. It's a different every year. Oh, I think it's going to be for
now
a little while. Yeah.
Before it was like Ronnie or Jay, like they'd always like they had those multiple, but
they don't have a reigning king right now, so well, so, I mean they do, but not like a runaway.
I think there's a high probability that if Derek plays his cards right, he could take it next year for sure. So it'll be really interesting, and I think Samson, I feel like he could definitely make top 3. So Nick better, watch his back. It could be him in 4th next year, and because I did notice that Nick had, it wasn't awful, but he definitely struggled more than I think everyone on that top 5 to keep his belly in. He's got some definite, distension. I know it's something that if he's not on stage, he's probably looking 9 months pregnant. So he's got that belly thing. He's definitely got to, keep tight and really watch for it, because he's got such a thick waist. If that gets any bigger, it's only going to make his shape look worse. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch out. Like, I always wonder what his game plan is with Matt, like what they're working on. I know the waist is going to be a goal, because if that gets any bigger, it's just not going to be good. And he's already massive, so I feel like they really don't have to add size to him. They have to like improve his shape, add size to like the shoulders, the lats, make him look wider, but still try to keep the waist as small as they can. So I just like to be a little fly on the wall to know what they're starting to brainstorm. I know they already got it all worked out, but
I'm sure.
I want to know what it is.
Well, and I think I do think it's interesting how they keep moving all the dates around. So like I saw something the other day that Arnold is only 10 weeks away. So a lot of these bodybuilders like are going to have to go straight from off O stage to preparing again for another show that's not too long ago.
Shit.
And then the O just got announced to be moved back to Orlando, and it's in November now, not December. So that's going to screw up everybody's off season, I would imagine. So people who have a lot of work to do, it's just interesting.
I don't understand why they don't just keep it consistent. Like, keep it one place, keep it at the same like time each year. I don't like you move it up a whole month. Like, that's a little crazy. I know they had a little extra time because it was in November last year, I believe, in Florida. And I'm like, why are you moving to Florida? So I'm glad we went this year because I'm like, chances are I'm not flying my ass out to Florida.
Yeah, I just can't imagine because it's like bodybuilding's so based off of timing, right? So timing is everything. Off seasons, if you have work to put in, are crucial. And so, like, I know Nick is really wanting to do the Arnold this year, so I'd imagine that he's going to go straight into prep for that, and then going to have to be really strategic in his off season if he wants to improve his O positioning going into next year. So it's just interesting.
I wonder if he will end up doing it after all, or if he'll decide that he just wants to stay focused on, placing or winning the next year because it's going to be sooner. So to do the Arnold, it just wouldn't be a huge off season. But have you seen him announce anything yet that he's going to do the Arnold, or is it just? I know he said he wanted to. That's all I know.
I just remember during the Arnold last year that all he kept saying was, I'm doing it next year, I'm doing it next year, I'm doing it next year. But that was again before he was back with Matt, so who knows if Matt talked some sense into him.
Yeah, because I think that was the big conflict between the two of them when they broke up, because he wanted to do the Arnold. And then Matt was like, no, you need to rest. You've been doing competition after competition, and he wants to make sure he's healthy and make sure they have enough time to focus on improvements for the Olympia. And I guess Nick didn't like that, and he wanted to do the Arnold again because he would be reigning champ from the Arnold, which I would understand. But you got to make a priority. Do you want to win the O, or do you want to win the Arnold? So kind of make that choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how it goes, and I don't know. I'm very excited though because I'm just hoping that we're going more the shape route, just because it seems a little bit safer for the athlete, and instead of just putting on
a lot. So I'm wondering if some of their decisions were made due to the recent media coverage.
I think so.
The Washington Post?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they just put out some articles and stuff about some of the deaths or whatever that have happened with bodybuilding
and Killer Sally.
Yeah, Killer Sally. So I'm curious because I know there's probably the IFBB is probably feeling a little bit of heat. That they're not feeling something. So when it came to the Big Ramy and him being nearly 300 pounds on stage, well, one, he definitely did not look his best. He just didn't. You can tell that he's been using some synthol a lot in his shoulders and also his legs, and you're technically not supposed to use synthol in the IFBB, but it's kind of they can only speculate, so it's not like they can no. So a lot of people use it. Even Hottie, he uses it in his shoulders. He's gotten a little, I feel markdowns from that in the past. But so Ramy just looked very plastic. His shoulders looked very abnormal to me. His quads looked very abnormal. And then someone else pointed out that his back, if you take a look when he's posing, it's it's non-existent. His lower back is gone. And I was like, wow, he really did. We couldn't really see as much because we were far away. But in the close-up shots, you're just wow, he did not look good. I almost feel fifth place for him was generous because there was other people that I feel should have been in that over him. Andrew Jack, for example, I think 100% would have been a better selection for fifth place. So I don't think it's going to go well for him in the future. I don't think he's going to come back from that.
I don't think so
either. That's just my personal opinion. Because I think they kind of want to maybe change. They want to downsize a little. Hottie is on the smaller size. He came from 212. He's a short guy. Obviously, he's not small. But he's not the biggest. But he's got, great conditioning. He doesn't have a gut as much. So I feel as though there was a message being sent when they chose who they chose. So I feel like it's progress that, you know, they can at least control it from getting more and more out of hand, because it's pretty out of hand. But I feel like this was very much needed to kind of like put the brakes on it even more, because you see Rami, he just thinks that he's going to win by continually getting bigger every year. But getting bigger every year for him has made his physique look like shit. So there's a limit, you know, because you can only put so much on a frame until you just start looking worse.
Yeah, and I kind of felt the same way about Brandon Curry. Not the synthol, but like he's just big and bulky and
Blocky.
Doesn't have a ton of shape, and he got 4th, I think, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
And so I think when they selected the guys they did, they were saying we're gonna be picking different things now to try to control that. And like we said, this is the show. So what they choose here is going to have ripple effects across other competitions.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Another thing I was going to say was interesting with the Olympia is like people watching was real fun.
Yeah.
Like the expo, but then also like at the Olympia, it's very, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like a boxing match where, you know, like so they didn't have a back door, right? I remember where people were just standing up on the balcony watching people walk in. So all of the athletes just came in the same door that everyone else does. And that's also what I love about bodybuilding, because I feel like there's hardly anyone that's really like above. They don't feel like they're above other people in the sense of like they walk through the same doors as everybody else. There's no backstage passes where they're like, you go through this back door. They got to walk in and out through the crowds, through all the people who are there to watch them. And they're also way more personable. You would see a bunch of athletes out in the lobby talking to people. And you don't see that at basketball games. They come out to the court and they leave immediately and they're gone. You know, they don't just go and talk to people. So I just feel like it's just very like accessible sport where people are very down to earth. But I think it was funny to see some of the people who like sat in the lower seats, how like they're dressed. It was like bodybuilding celebrity kind of thing. Like they're all like done up.
VIP.
Or just like lots of plastic surgery.
Fur coats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was very bougie.
It was like what I picture like a mob meeting looking like down there at the...
Yes, that's exactly it.
And it's like we're not... Some of the old retired guy, like the retired bodybuilders aren't in great health anymore, but they have like these young wives with like plastic surgery and fur length coats or fur length coats, and it's just crazy. And the other thing I thought that was cool with the people entering from the front door was they didn't have security. It was literally just them in a hoodie, like walking.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It was
no bodyguards.
No bodyguards. No nothing. They're just walking with more purpose than everybody else.
Yep. They're just like, all right, we've got somewhere to go, and I thought so. I don't know if you saw it. So at the expo, there was someone like pretending to be C-Bum, and they were walking around with like massive bodyguards. It's like mistake number one. Like, what athletes did you see walking around with bodyguards? I mean, it obviously brought attention, and people were like, some people actually thought it was him, but two, he chose like the biggest bodyguard, so he looked real short, and you're just like, that's definitely not C-Bum. He's so fucking short. But there's a YouTube video I saw. The guy who did that posted like, I snuck into the Olympia pretending to be C-Bum, but we all know he paid just like everyone else, because there's no way.
And then like, well, because they're also at the show itself, like even like the biggest names like Jay Cutler was at the Olympia, and he was on the stage, like a little short stage, but like it wasn't like anybody was guarding him. Everybody was right up next to him. Like, it's just more chill.
Yeah, it's just there's not a lot of sports where you can just go to an expo and expect to see all your favorite athletes. Just out in the open, no bodyguards, no nothing. So I don't know. I think it just, I'm sure there's been issues in the past. I'm sure there's, always stupid people, because there is always stupid people. But I think it just shows that there's a pretty big, people have respect for each other in the bodybuilding community. Not always, but the majority. So yeah, it was good to see and watch and feel inspired as both an athlete and coach, and kind of what I needed, even though it was like insane and physically draining. It was emotionally very filling and inspiring.
Absolutely. I feel the exact same way. Super excited to get back to my routine and back to eating chicken and rice and lifting heavy weights. So it was fun. The other really nice thing about bodybuilding is that, and because I get this question a lot, and I'm sure you do too, Cody, is like, why the heck do you like bodybuilding, or what is it about competitive bodybuilding? And the thing I like most about it, and this isn't necessarily about the Olympia, is like everybody's doing the same thing. Like to be a bodybuilder, you have to live a lifestyle, you have to be dedicated, and you have to work out and lift heavy. And yes, everybody, like professionals, are doing that exact same thing. Yeah, to a little bit more of an extreme maybe, but there's no way around it. There's no cheat codes. Everybody thinks that PEDs are a cheat code. They're not a cheat code. It's just part of the lifestyle. And it's very cool to just see how it works. And like your hard work and dedication is all it is, right? Yeah, some people might have genetics, but that's only going to play a part. So it's really just simply hard work, and it's great to see that and see it so widely accepted and applauded. So I don't remember really where I was going with that, but I just think it's so well on display at the Olympia, and that's really fun.
Yeah, I think what I'm feeling basically is there's a lot of misconceptions around bodybuilding, what's it about, and like why we're so interested in it. Because I know, like you said, you get that question, like why are you so interested in bodybuilding? Because it seems very shallow, seems very like just kind of dumb. But it is a sport of discipline, and it's something that is like admired and rewarded, and perseverance, I feel like, is the main focus, and those are things that I just value so much. And I don't feel like that is something that is rewarded anymore, or just is not important as much to people. So to like be in a place with like-minded people who, me and Des were talking, and I was like, didn't feel like I didn't belong. Like, of course I'm so small, like I'm way small, but like I felt like I belonged. I didn't feel out of place. And I think bodybuilding for me is like, I'm already a type A rigid person. So it's more of like bodybuilding is just a space that I feel like I feel normal in and I fit into, just because it's how I already am. So it's like, yeah, you have to be this way to be a bodybuilder, but like I am this way, but then I feel I fit in with bodybuilding because of these things. And so you just know that you're not weird. Like I always feel weird if I'm in with people who are not into bodybuilding, because you eat different, you do things different, you got to make time to work out. So to be in a place surrounded by people that are in the same thing, nothing was weird. There was no explanation needed. It was just a given, like, between the three of us, it was just like, okay, when we working out, made it happen. Like, where are we going to eat? Make it happen, so it was just nice to not have to feel like you had to justify being who you are. It sounds like I'm talking about being trans, but I'm talking about being a bodybuilder.
I mean, I think that's why I always say, like, I'm always shocked that more trans people are into bodybuilding, just because it's simply controlling your body in the way that you always want it to, and like building it from the ground up, which we already have to do. So it's just taking it and making it a sport, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. And like, I get why people wouldn't be into it because it does, there it involves sacrifice. Of course, it involves sacrifice, and if you aren't willing to, not everyone has to bodybuild. You could be a bodybuilder, but like not be into the competition aspect of it. You could still be into like building muscle and living the lifestyle and all that. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just, it's just like, it's not all bad. And I feel like I just keep justifying my interest in bodybuilding because I know I saw you got a question on your story about that. And people like to just be that way. They almost expect us to be anti-bodybuilding, I feel like. And there's this like assumption that the focus on our bodies would be harmful to us, or that we shouldn't be so focused on our bodies. But it's made me feel so much more comfortable in my body. Like I feel so much more comfortable in my skin, literally. Like before like before transition, you wouldn't catch me dead in like anything under some shorts and a t-shirt. But now, and like you too, man, like you got up stage on a drag queen brunch with your shirt off and rocked it. So if that's not a product of bodybuilding, like I don't know what the fuck is, like you could tell that story because I feel like that's a good
one. Okay, well, I will tell that story, but first off, I wanted to kind of go in the same vein as you. But the thing that I thought that along the same vein is like everybody looked like they were having so much fun on stage. James, and I don't even know who else it was. It was James Hollingshead, and he was like sneaking, like skipped off the stage. Do you remember that? After he done, and like they just looked like they were having so much fun, and they were just happy in their bodies and proud of what they had made. And I think that's what I like, is like it's completely rewarding your hard work, and it's only your work that they're looking at. And I think that's pretty cool. But
yeah.
So on Sunday was our last day, and then Cody had to leave. Cody and Seth both had to leave early. But we'd stayed, and we got tickets to a drag brunch at the Treasure Island. And so it was done by a couple queens that were on RuPaul's Drag Race, apparently. And I love drag shows. But I had never really watched that show. And so I was sitting, eating my breakfast and watching. And they were out in the crowd, and the one queen grabbed me and wanted to bring me on stage. And like grabbed my arm and like pulled me up and was like, "You just look like an IT manager or something." And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a personal trainer." And she's like, "Well, I've never seen a personal trainer with a shirt on." And she made me take my shirt off on the stage and do push-ups in front of this whole brunch. And I just went along with it. It was quite an experience.
That's so awesome.
And I was so nervous, and I'm like, whatever. I mean, I just watched a bunch of guys take off all their clothes on stage.
Can we post this to the lab? I feel like this needs to be posted to the lab because you didn't look nervous. Like you looked like you were just ready. Like you were there.
Fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. It was very nerve-wracking.
I would have peed my pants and like froze up and like not taking my shirt off. Probably I've been like, no, we're good. I'm gonna go by.
Well, I did it. I'm like, oh, I'll just lean into it, and that's what I did. So I did something out of my comfort zone while we were in Vegas.
Hell yeah, an unexpected out of your comfort zone.
I know, right?
That's awesome. I say we should do a vote. So if anyone wants to see Kel's performance on stage with the drag queen, I'm gonna do a poll. All right, how about that, Kel? So
all right,
if you want to see the video. All right, if you want to see Kel on stage for the drag queen brunch with his shirt off doing push-ups, please vote yes or no, and we'll make that happen.
All right, that seems fair.
Yes. Oh man.
Oh
Well,
gosh.
should we wrap it up for
Yep.
those folks
Let's hear
who are
your
probably
power
like
talk.
not? All right. Power talk for today. Let's see. Open up. Okay. So, this is a James Clear quote, if you're wondering. It's more productive to focus on whether you are fulfilling your own potential than comparing yourself to someone else. The fact that you have a natural limit to any specific ability has nothing to do with whether you are reaching the ceiling of your capabilities. People get so caught up in the fact that they have limits that they rarely exert the effort required to get close to them. So I really like this one, and it also reminded me of like the Olympia and how I was thinking, when you're a kid, you have this sense of dreaming and wonder, and even when I used to like go to a basketball game, I'd be like, oh, maybe that will be me on the court one day. You have this like, you're more inspired. I'm like, man, I'm too old for that shit. I can't go to an event and be like, maybe I'll be on this stage one day. So what I was thinking though, I was like, you know what? I may not ever make it onto the Olympia stage, but I can still become the best version of myself. And honestly, that really is all that bodybuilding is. We do very often fall into that comparison trap, but in the same way, everyone has different shapes and sizes. You can't be, anyone else. So you can only focus on fulfilling your own, biggest potential. And if you focus on like being like someone else, you're never going to reach your own potential because you're just striving to reach someone else's, and that does not work. Or you quit because you already just think that it's not possible for you. Maybe you're like, I don't want to do bodybuilding. I have awful genetics. I don't have the genetics for bodybuilding. Yo, like, if I went off my supposed genetics, there's, I have a picture with like my parents and me, like from when I competed in 2020. And I was looking at that, like, sorry, mom and dad, but it was like, if I looked at my parents being like, I don't have the genetics for bodybuilding, like, I would not suspect that I would be like, build any muscle at all. So, you never know until you try, and just keep focusing on hitting your potential, not someone else's, yours. And there is no, like, I think people think, oh, I don't want to do all of this for nothing, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if it's bodybuilding, or maybe you're trying to get a new job, or you're trying to change careers, or maybe you're thinking about going back to school and you're like, oh, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I can never do that. But you can't even think that. You haven't tried, So you don't know until you try. And failure is a teacher. It just shows you possibly need to go a different direction. So even if you do fail, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, so that's it. Power talk.
Love it.
Done.
Awesome. Love it. Cool.
All right.
Well, sign up for that email list.
Yes.
All right. Sign up for the email list, and we'll see you again next week. Peace.
Peace out.